Gamliel Rabinovich Shlita Zayin Gesund, one of the Gedolei Adar, said that our kips, our kids in pain, are like the Maiys Mitzvah of our generation. A Maiys Mitzvah is somebody who's lying on the side of the road, nobody knows who he is, and he's dead. And when you see that, you have to stop what you're doing. The Kohen Gadol, in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, could be going to the Kodesh Kodashim, and he sees a Maiys Mitzvah, a dead person. He has to be metamei himself and give up being in the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur. Being in the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur, he has to give it up, because Hashem wants you to take care of those people that are all alone. Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich HaKohen says that's our kids. People who are suffering in our generation, and we're all Baruch Hashem going and hopefully healthy and hopefully happy and building, and they're on the side of the road. They're off the path. They're on the side. We have to stop what we're doing. It's more important than our physical going to work and our ruchnius. This is our mission. The greatest ruchnius. Taking care of those who are needy. Give them a hug, give them a smile, make them happy, be there for them, do everything we possibly can for them. And their parents will thank you. But in Shemayim, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, all those dairies are going to say, thank you for taking care of my kid. And even if it's Yom Kippur, and you're like the Kohen Gadol, going to Kodesh Kodashim, you're going to Ne'ilah, and you see one of these quote-unquote Maiys Mitzvahs, somebody who needs a boost. It's a lot of stories, but I'll just say one. I heard this from Rebbe Avram Shur, Shlita, Zayin Gesund. And he said it on the yard site of the Beis Yisrael, the Gai Rebbe, the Beis Yisrael, Schus Yagan Aleinu. I just told you this story at our family meeting. You could say the story every day, and it's just unbelievable. The way a real tzaddik looked at it. And it's based on the Zohar HaKadosh that we learn at the training. It's often a Zohar HaKadosh. What's important? What means more to Hashem? Something we need to start getting used to. Ratzon Hashem. What's more important to Hashem? That we go to daven with minyan, or we help somebody who's struggling? Not even with death, just struggling. We have a lot of TP fathers that they're going out to daven Friday night, and they see there's like an Eis Ratzon. It's like a time that the kid's ready to schmooze. They pass by they knock on the door, and the door's open for some reason, or the kids and they just sit and they schmooze. We give up minyan? This story, within a story, go back to where we were up to. It's brought down in the story from the Chafetz Chaim. He was very old, and he had two bachrim that were set up. They made rotations to be with him. And he got up, opens his eyes, and they're not there. A few minutes later, they came back. He said, where were you? They said, we saw that you were resting, so we went to daven Marav. Right? Big tzaddikim. Chafetz Chaim said, you have over here a zaken, chayla, that might need you, and you left your post to go daven Marav with minyan? It's all the tzaddikim. It so opens up our eyes of what's Ratzon Hashem. What's Ratzon Hashem? Ratzon Hashem is that we have to be there for those people. So, Rabbi Avram Shur, Shlita Zayin Gesund, said, Beis Yisrael, who is more sharp than the Beis Yisrael? Kaddish, Tahar, we can't even imagine. He was the greatest of the greatest. And this is before he was Rebbe. And he was outside Yom Kippur in the afternoon. We know in Ger, there's a big hafsaka Yom Kippur. That's why I'm a Ger Chassid. I get the break. Yeah, and they daven faster, and there's a nice break. Maybe that's why he was out, I don't know. And he saw Machal Yom Kippur, one of the holiest people in the Dar of the generation, of the last generation, right? Son of the Imri Emes, grandson of the Sfas Emes. And he sees a Machal Yom Kippur. What would you do? Some people would scream, some people would yell, some people would think fui, some people would just look away. He went to schmooze with the guy. He went to schmooze with him. How are you? What's doing? No musser, no sharfkeit. He was very sharp. He pushed people who, when you push them, they got better. Tzaddikim push people who, when you push them, get better. Dumb people push people that when you push them, they get worse. And they still push and push and push. Tzaddikim don't do that. This guy, Musar, wasn't going to help. He's too far. He's a Mechal Yom Kippur, screaming at him, Yom Kippur, like Shabbos. Story within a story. Amazing story. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef's son, who's the Rabbi Rashi of Israel now, right? What's his name? Anybody know? Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef. How come the Ashkenazi knew and the Sephardi didn't know? Right? I put that in the training. A beautiful story. He said he was a kid. When I was a little boy, he has that beautiful accent. When I was a little boy, and I was a taxi driver. He was going Shabbos after Shachris, after davening. He was walking with his father and an entourage, and an Israeli taxi driver pulled up. Machal Shabbos b'Fahesia. And he rolled down the window. Probably in those days you had to go like this, Nebuch. And he said, do you know where this road leads? So he says on himself, I was a little boy. I told him, where this road leads? Straight to Gehinam. Kanoi, very frum. He said, everybody laughed. He says, my father, you have to see the clip. Did you see the clip? I sent it out. My father got very annoyed. He said, why did you do that? See, Rav Ovadia Yosef also, very rough and tough, very, very solid, right? But that's only for someone who's going to get better. He said, why did you do that? You thought from making fun of him, from giving him musar, he's going to do teshuvah? He's going to say, oh, I'm so sorry, and he's going to get out of the car and do teshuvah. He's going to love Shabbos? He got upset at him. He said, that's not the way to deal with it. You don't yell at somebody. You don't make fun of somebody. You help them to come back. They should say, I have a connection to frum people. Be nice to him. Story within a story of a story of a story. I was by Rav Steinman, Zchus Yagan Aleinu, Zatzal, Rav Steinman, and I asked him, and I have a video of that. I said, what should parents do when they see their kid is Machal Shabbos? Should they get angry at him? And he said, well, what's that going to accomplish? Then they're going to hate Shabbos and they're going to hate their parents. You don't have to defend Shabbos. You don't have to get angry. The kid shouldn't think you hate him. He did not want the child to feel that you hate him. He wrote about that in his Sikha that's brought down from Rav Steinman, that a child that thinks that my parents hate me is the worst thing for them and they have no reason to come back. A child who knows that my parents love me, he writes, look at the whole thing, but he writes, Vadai Sheyachzar. Oh, halavai, we should see it, Bekar of Mamish, by all of our children, that they feel your ahava. But he told me about that. He said, what's that going to accomplish? And a lot of people do things, they scream, whatever, they don't think it has to accomplish. They think that's my job. Tzaddikim didn't do that. Story within a story within a story. We're back to Rabbi Avram Shor Shlita, Zayin Gesund, who said about the Beis Yisrael, Zchus Yagan Aleinu, he sees this guy on Yom Kippur being Machal Yom Kippur. And instead of getting angry or looking away or muttering or ignoring, he goes and he starts schmoozing with him, and he schmoozed with him. He missed Mincha, Ne'ilah, and Marav of Yom Kippur. And that's not something you miss by accident on any day, especially Yom Kippur, especially when it starts getting dark outside. And he schmoozed with him. Can you believe that? You can't even be mashal, you can't even make up for it. Afterwards, you could have a Marav Yichidis. I don't know what happens with Mincha. I guess you do a Mincha of Chayil, so you miss Mincha Yom Kippur, you miss the Al-Chetz at the end. And Nila, you can't even, I think you can't even do another Shemona Esrei for Nila, right? That's the halacha. And you can, even if you could, you can't have those moments that we look forward to a whole year of the holiest, highest moments of the year of Hashemu Elikim 7 times, and nobody wants to give up Nila. We had a story within a story. We had a parent here in group, he's in Atzala, and somebody bought from him in his shul Psicha L'Ne'ilah for over $5,000. And as he's about to go walk towards it, on the other side of the end of the shul, a guy drops. A guy had a heart attack. You're not allowed to even think for 1 second, what should I do? What should I do? So instead of him spending the next hour, Psicha Nila, with your head in the Aron Kodesh, feeling as close as you can to God, being as pure and holy as you will ever be your whole year, instead, he spent the next hour being over on every single Avera of being Machal Yom Kippur, taking blood and putting in IVs and driving and everything. I think he had a ham sandwich also on the way out. He was over on lava, minisurim, chabola, everything. Why? Ratzon Hashem. So if I would tell you 80 years later, the Beis Yisrael went ahead and he said, come, let me show you. I want you to meet that guy. And he's a long beard and long pious. And he says, and he has 100 children and grandchildren, all Eiskem B'Torah v'Mitzvahs. We would all say, oh, smart guy. He gave up a few hours of Yom Kippur, but look at the investment. Look what he accomplished. Story within a story of a story. And we all know the famous Askin Ronnie Greenwald. So one time, you know the story? Unbelievable story, Yom Kippur story. I'm trying to keep all the stories Yom Kippur, Dick. Let's put our phones on mute. And he went with a program. They rented a hotel for Yom Kippur for guys who were, interested in davening, but not necessarily in a shul. It was a Yom Kippur program. As it started getting dark by sunset, a van pulled up with boys and girls that were running away from Williamsburg or Borough Park, a Chassidish, they used to be, off what they call off the derech, I don't like the term, right? Not from kids, le'es ata, currently not religious, and they had to run away from their families, so they booked a hotel in Piscataway, New Jersey or something like that, and they planned on spending the day there. And Nebuch lo yitzlach, these Nebuch kids, they get out of the van and they come into the lobby and they see a bunch of people walking with Sidurim and Talis, and they're like, what the heck happened here? And they still spent Yom Kippur swimming, Nebuch, and eating and drinking beers with treif and chametz. And I don't know if you chametz on Yom Kippur, but whatever, you get the point, right? Machal Yom Kippur. And Ronnie, a goyin hatzadik, you could say Rabbi Ronnie Greenwald, he spent most of Yom Kippur outside of shul, schmoozing with these kids. Just being friendly, just being nice. He felt that was Ratzon Hashem for him. He felt like the Zohar Kodesh says, God doesn't need our tefillas. He needs us to save his children, especially those who roll away from the crown. That's where he spent his Yom Kippur, schmoozing with them while they were eating, while they were not dressed properly. He gave up. He gave up, and it says over there, a few of those kids came back. I'm sure by now the rest came back also. But a few of those kids, within a short time, because of the kesher, the connection, the nafshei kshura b'nafshei that he made with them on that Yom Kippur, it was a shas hakosher. He couldn't say, I'm going to ignore them now. You give me your phone. No, now you're here. Why did God send them to me right here? Obviously, Hashem wants me to do this. Did he lose out? All the schusim of those kids that he brought back who are married and the children, if you're talking about just ruchnius, right? Good investment. It says you get a commission on every mitzvah that you do for all the deiros that ever come out of those people. He gets commission. How do you get rich? You can work for $15 an hour. You can work for $25 an hour. You can work for $50 an hour. But if you have 100 employees, that's how you can get really rich. They're working for you. You make a little on each one. So he was makar of people. He did so much in his life, big askin. But that's his Yom Kippur story. So over here, if you would imagine that 80 years later, the Beis Yisrael showed you this guy, he came in, and his kiruv worked, everybody would say, good deal. He said, Rabbi Avraham Shor Shlita on the art side of the Beis Yisrael, he told me the story. He said at the end of his life, the Beis Yisrael was sick, he was old, and he said, he reflected back on that Yom Kippur, he said, this is one sin, one avaira, that I never had charuta. I never regretted doing this avaira. That I gave up my mincha, my ne'ilah, and my marav on Yom Kippur, b'tzibur, to go shmooze with that guy. I never regretted it. And then he added, even though I did not accomplish anything. I still didn't regret it. You have to try. That's the lashon of the Zohar Kodesh, that all the brachas you get is for being hishtadlus. And he tried many times, and he got many accounts. He brought back many people. Said, but he didn't regret it. I didn't regret it. I would say, I didn't know at the time. I had to try. But now I look back, I guess it was a bad. No, wasn't a bad. You did the right thing. You did Ratzon Hashem. That's the Beis Yisrael. Maiys mitzvah of our generation. The Kohen Gadol, the holiest person in the holiest day, going to the holiest place. And he sees a Maiys mitzvah, he has to be metame himself. Let me wait for the next guy. No, Hashem sent that for you. And that's what we have to look at, the suffering souls of our generation as a Maiys mitzvah. Don't be so busy. I gotta go. I gotta do. I gotta me. Even in Ruchnius, I gotta daven. I gotta this. There's time for everything, but you have to know what Ratzon Hashem is, and sometimes Ratzon Hashem is to on the way that you're going to do something and you see, wow, I could help somebody, and if it's your own kid, what could be greater than that? So let's go into Yantif with all of that in mind. Mitzvah Hashem should be the end of a difficult year for many of us and the beginning of a brand new year full of Hatzlacha and Nachas and Siyata D'Shmaya and Parnasa, Berevach, the Chavay, the Nekel, the Heter I'll leave up to you. And only Yiddish and Nachas from all of your offspring that you should enjoy in good health.